when the Swiss men finally said yes to the Swiss women's right to vote. In 1971, I was 17 years old, and thus too young to vote. But it is therefore clear that I no longer belong to the generation of the Swiss suffragettes. But I was not too young for the essay topic for the entry test to the college: women's right to vote, yes or no. The 1968 movement became stronger, and in the city centers there were wild clashes with the police, known in Zurich as the Globus riots. I was going to the secondary school and was caught by a water cannon on the bridge of the station without knowing what it was all about. This was the beginning of my political journey. I'd like to tell you what was it like to live in those days. Worldwide, we had the Vietnam War, the Prague Spring, decolonization in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, the women's liberations movement, the peace movement, and the start of the movement for the protection of the environment. Today, I would like to focus on the situation in Switzerland back then, particularly on the social, health, and political levels. On the social level, we young people felt then our situation to be stale and outdated. What would you think today if the police ring at the doorbell at 6 o'clock in the morning, come in, check how many people are in the apartment, what their marital status is, how many toothbrushes they can find in the bathroom, and which beds are warm? This happened all the times because young people started to live unmarried in shared flats. This was opposed then by the ban of cohabitation. On the health level, young women got birth control pills only if they knew addresses from liberal doctors. Women who got unwantedly pregnant had to go to another country for abortion. Women giving birth were not asked what about their need. On the political level, I can tell you the story of Margrit Bigler-Eckenberger. She studied law and obtained a doctorate degree, but she could only work in very few legal fields. For all the positions at court, the applicant needed to have political rights. It was only later that I realized that the headline in 1974, when she was the first woman to be elected as federal judge, was "From cooking to federal court." For 15 years, she was the only woman at the Swiss Federal Supreme Court. As you can see, my political and actionist theme was not the right to vote, but the liberation of women. Economics, politics, cultural and erotic self-determination, contraception, abortion, maternity protections, that was what drove me. And it was definitely the right time to benefit from the newly obtained formal political rights. We, women of the autonomous feminist movement, in different groups, organizations, and projects, fought with initiatives and actions for legal abortion and made violence against women the topic. It was necessary to set up an emergency telephone for raped women, a house for beaten women, but also the social discussion that this was not a private matter, but political one. When we noticed that there were not enough signatures for the popular initiative Equal Rights for Men and Women, we helped out the Swiss suffragettes. We realized that legal question was also important. In the referendum of the 14th of June 1981, I was the National Secretary of the Organization for the Cause of Women, OFRA, and organized and coordinated our campaign and as well as the actions on the streets. The approval of the equal rights was only possible thanks to the women. The majority of Swiss men rejected the constitutional amendment. So we still had a long way to go in many causes. In 1984, the Swiss Parliament elected the first woman to the Federal Council. The marriage law was changed towards a spirit of partnership. This vote in 1987 was also positive, once again, thanks to the women. After many attempts, we were able in 2002 to celebrate the 12-week solution for abortion with an approval of 80%. This is remarkable in the current international political environment. A minimum regulation for maternity leave has been enshrined in law in 2005. For Switzerland, it's a shamefully pity, but at least it is something. And what was the result after 10 years of the 1981 referendum of equal rights? Women Watch workers found that equal pay was not yet attended. A women's strike was needed. This was decided at the Congress of the Swiss Confederation of the Trade Union. Take a deep breath. No one knew in 1991 what a women's strike could look like, how women could be motivated to do so. We just tried everything. When women go on strike, it's a double strike, at work and at home. Wenn Frau will, steht alles still. When women want it, everything stands still. This was the motto. And indeed, on the 14th of June 1991, Switzerland stood still for a moment. We too were surprised that women and girls from all walks of life joined the strike activities in the countryside and in the city. We were probably about 500,000. This shock was immediately felt in the federal politics. Within a very short time, the parliament passed the Equal Opportunity Act for Working Life. This led the legal foundation for all issues in working life and was supposed to be implemented starting 1996. However, nothing much has changed. Fast forward until 2019, there is still no improvement in closing the gender pay gap. No increase of the number of women in important positions, few men in part-time jobs, etc. In addition, the worldwide #MeToo made it clear that the issue of assaults has not been resolved yet. The lack of care work and the effects of low pensions for women became clear. All these issues, which were not tackled with the necessary seriousness by the official politics, triggered the decision to call for another women's strike on the 14th of June 2019. Again, no one knew in advance how the women's strike would be followed. But we could build on the experiences of 1991. For example, it was clear that men would be in charge for the public kitchen. The women could only strike if their children were taken care of. And it was stunning to learn that more women and girls had taken part in the strike. Women from all areas made their demands clear. The women farmers, to the church women, the child caretakers, the healthcare providers, the serving and teaching staff, the scientists, the artists, to the pensioners, all have shown what the motto pay, time, respect means to them and to the society. This time we were 1 million women and girls. The effect is gradually becoming apparent. For example, voters elected 42% of women to the National Council in October. That's a Swiss record. Everyone is sticking to their demands. The next item on the agenda after maternity leave will be paternity leave, followed by parental leave. There is room for a certain confidence. But nothing happens automatically. On the 7th of February 2021, it will be 50 years for Swiss women to have political rights. Our neighbors celebrated 100 years last year. Why Switzerland was so late? How did our society change since the 1970s? Where does our democracy stand today and how should it develop? Start today with the countdown of the 50 years anniversary. Start with reflection, analysis, exchange. Maybe you plan an event or an action. Please think about joining at least one event during 2021. 2021 is to be an important year for democracy for all, for women and men. Thank you.